We were at this massive tool show with people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And, all these customers walking up to us and like, oh, your thread mill. One guy said, your thread mill saved my life. And I was like, wow, really? Like, tell me more.
That's bold. That's bold.
That's a bold. Yeah. It really, yeah.
Stopped a bullet or something? What did it do?
Like, saved your life, really. But like, I think that's when it really like first hit me in a real deep way. Like, wow. The decisions that we make really do have a tangible and a sometimes immediate effect on all of these other employees.
It's weighty and that's a heavy thing to carry, but it's also exciting in a way where not only like when we grow and when we expand, we can hire 2, 3, 4 more people, and we're providing a livelihood for those 3, 4 more people and their families. And that is the exciting part for me. Like the fulfilling part of running a business is not just being able to sell our parts and make a profit, but to be able to know like that part is helping someone save his life or, make a tool and support himself, herself, but then also all of our employees that live off of the incomes they make working and making our tools is also really fulfilling to know that it's all of us. This business supports us all.
Yeah. No, I
and it is far reaching.
I feel that too. And like you mentioned it earlier of just feeling the importance of manufacturing and just how that helps the created built environment that we live in. Cutting tools are usually a few steps back in the process. They're pretty foundational for making a lot of different products. A lot of different things happen. So
it was funny when you were talking about people who were impacted by our tools and at IMTS. And it was funny. There was a story about when I first was hired, it was 6 months maybe after I was hired. was doing tech support calls, and a guy called in asking about thread mills, and he had high praise for him. He was like, I love these things. I use these. They're great. And I was like, yeah, where are you at? And he's like, I'm Lockheed Martin. I was like, no way. I worked at Lockheed Martin like 6 months ago. Like, where are you at? And he was in a different location, but it was fun just to talk to him about, because we could relate. We both worked for the same company, but now I'm on the other side as a supplier supplying to him. And it was exciting to hear like, hey, even the people making those jet airplanes that I used to work on doing something different I'm supporting the same kind of people, those mechanics who are also making threads that go into the fighter jets. And it was a really cool conversation to have with someone.
It's a full circle.
He was excited.
Totally
He's like, I only use scientific cutting tools. Yeah. If you guys make it, I buy it. And it's like, great.
He'll love to hear it.
Yeah. He was awesome.
Well, the guy who at IMTS who came up to me, I want to say it was Lions Machinery. So shout out to Lions if they're out there somewhere listening. But he said, I had been trying to make this part and it was down to the wire and I forget if he was using a tap or if it was just another, kind of subpar thread mill, but he's like, I couldn't get it to work. And then I finally ordered a scientific thread mill and it made it, and he finished the job like just in the nick of time. And it was like this key account that he couldn't afford to lose, or, so there was a lot, hanging in the balance for him personally and professionally with losing this key account. And so it was cool. But that's how I guess we saved his life. It was not nearly as like romantic as stopping a bullet, or something like that.
We
but
saved his
we did. We saved his business and we
like
saved his reputation, and that
succeeded because of our cutting tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I've just looked up. I've been curious, like, you see prints come in and people are asking for a tool to cut a certain feature on this part. And you're like, what is this part? And you go and start digging online and see what it's for. And it can be a whole mix. I mean, I've seen stuff that's medical where it's used in surgery. They're using our tools to make lumbar anchors for surgical spine procedures, and sometimes
just something your mom went through.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, and
so that's got to be
right. It's
some kind of fulfilling for you to know.
It did. I mean, I certainly felt that connection. Like, I don't know if they used hardware that came from our tools specifically, but to know that I'm part of that process and that someone else like mom benefited from what we were doing. I mean, that's
It's
pretty
cool.
amazing. Yeah. At the same time, you have like military, you've talked to people who are calling from a Navy research center, or, you've talked to NASA before about
Sure have.
SpaceX and space industry. And that goes back a ways, because I remember when one of our former employees was who I worked with when he was with us. I remember hearing a lot of stories working alongside him he worked previously for Rocketdyne. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember, 10, 20 years ago when I was working at Rocketdyne, and we would buy SCT tools, and then we were using them in order to make they were making engine parts for rocket engines. And that goes back, us working with the local aerospace and rocket companies goes back to probably the start of the
beginning.
company.
Yeah, the very beginning.
And it's just kind of like that. Very likely, our tools have been used through most of the space programs that have
really
happened
cool.
through the decades. Yeah.
Yep.
I know some of them for sure have, but I think it probably goes back pretty far.
My favorite is when people walk up to you at the tool show and they'll tell you who they're with, right? So like, for example, John Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, right? And the guy that came, this was also at IMTS last year, and they're like, yeah, we love your tools. They're great. They're great. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, and sometimes they're like, well, what are you working on? And they'll get this like sheepish grin, and they're like, well, we can't really say, and like,
Yep.
Yeah.
it's proprietary. But just to know, like, or to not know, I think there's this mystery in not knowing sometimes. Like, it's cool enough to know that our port tools are making hydraulic port, stuff for like John Deere or something like that. Like, that's cool, because then I know, like, we benefited farmers and feeding the country, and that's cool. But then to know there's this kind of nebulous, mysterious element to, like, I don't know exactly what you're doing. I hope it's good. I hope you're using it for good and not evil. But I think it kind of goes along with the space thing, because a lot of that could be secretive or proprietary or medical as well. So a lot of times, like, we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? The coolest stuff, we probably honestly do not know.
Yeah.
That would be the coolest stuff. But it's fun to hear the snippets and to have that, like, that full circle moment, and to know, like, it really made a tangible difference.
I remember with Oregon State University, we helped sponsor one of their racing teams, and I was involved in that. And
What kind of racing?
It was like kart.
I think it was kart racing.
Like
it was
Formula
part of their,
One. It was like Formula Kart racing or something. It was
like a go-kart?
yeah, but it was like kind of like it was something like a Formula One style car, but kart size or something like that.
That's fun.
It sounds so
Yeah.
fun.
it was really cool. But so a lot of our tools, they basically, for the sponsorship, we paid them in tools basically. So we gave them, a really good deal, and we gave them, all these tools. And coming back a year later and talking to one of the professors who was helping with the team when they built the cars and everything, was just like, those tools were great. Like, I want to get more of this for the next year when we go around. I want this tool, and this tool. And like, just seeing the fact that these tools go into like a college and sponsor a racing team and helps the next generation like learn and enjoy and just get fulfillment out of, racing or doing what they love. Like that was a cool moment for me, just seeing to be involved in that, and seeing that just raise up the generation behind me. Whereas I haven't really thought of it that way before. It's all about like, oh, we're going to sell product, we're going to make more money. But in fact, it's more than that. It's, it's basically helping raise the next generation and excite them to see what they can create and what they can make, and just the excitement around that. So
Absolutely.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool.